Now, the rest of the story.
Okay guys, I got the 79 on the Deere baler. We're gonna run both balers today, largely just to get done. I'd much rather been combining corn right now than worrying about making fodder, but as is life. So I got this ready to be used again. And for everybody that watches my channel, used again means it's been greased and hit with the air hose, and all of the chains have been hit with, I think they were hit with WD-40. Yes, they were. Should I do it again? Probably not. The reason I don't want to do it again is because grass hay, alfalfa hay can be considerably dusty. Fodder is quite worse. So I'll get done baling what I get done here today, and then we'll go through and panic mode for a second. Oh, good grief, that was close. Okay, I need these extenders here. This baler is a cover edge baler, so there's a different type of net wrap you can get where it comes all the way out to the edge, and you don't need these spacers right here on either end of the net wrap. That keeps it centered for the non-cover edge net wrap. And the cover edge net wrap is absolutely terrible, just in my opinion, not like it actually is. I've actually considered trying some, using some on my fine second or third cut grass hay. It's just that if you have them on the front of a loader, when you go to take the net wrap off, it's not so bad. But a fair share of our bales, we put them up on end and face down on the ground. Well, when it's face down on the ground, you have a couple inches of net wrap lying on the ground that's being pinched. So we have some used rolls of net wrap that really aren't going to be worth my time, but I'm going to do it anyway because I am picky and I do not want to waste net wrap. So one of these rolls is Dad's and Ryan's, because Dad's and Ryan's net wrap is in that stack back there, and I do everything I can to make sure that we're being fair and that, you know, whose net wrap is being used. My net wrap is in that pile over there. I have considerably more net wrap than everybody else right now. Reason being is I made what did I make? Well, I didn't even make half as many bales as I should have, and it comes out to 400 to 450 bales less than I normally do, and I wrap a good portion of my bales with four wraps of net wrap, even the grass stuff. Now the reason I do that is because it is handled so much. Wow, the cat's made a mess of this. I should have yelled at him, but at the end of the day, it's got enough stuff to worry about, be stressed about every stupid little thing in my life. Putting 4 rolls of wrap on, let's see if I can't do this, on a bale, what it does is, for how many times you handle it, it helps that bale keep from getting busted open or getting big gashes on your bale, and then you start losing material. And I have to ship a lot of my hay from the valley either up to here to feed cows or up to the local auction. The local auction, hay is worth a pretty penny, and I'm missing out on a good share of that because I don't have the hay to sell. So I gotta figure this out. I'll get back to you. Okay, so for any of you that are wondering how I was going to do this, if you've never seen the back of a John Deere baler, you're probably wondering what is all going on here. So This guy loads differently than the 566. That one can be pretty cantankerous trying to get net wrap to work on it. Granted, it works immensely better than the 535 we had. So, I mean, that was a big step up. This one is even awesomer. So this roll of net wrap shouldn't even be there. This is a storage wrap. And this guy right down here is the one that I was fighting with. There's not much on it. I'd say there's probably 5 bales on that roll. And one of these rolls brand new, the last I checked, was $435. And this guy, like I said, these are leftover rolls from doing hay. One of these is Dad's, one of these is Ryan's, and it just so happens that a good portion of the net wrap or the bales we're going to make right now are for Dad and Ryan. Dad's cows will at least have some good fodder, and Ryan's will too. But I'm just got this stuck up in there for now, until I get down to the field, and I'll pull this out and set it out along the fence, and that'll be good. Everything else in the baler is good. It is, that clock is very wrong, by the way. It is like going on 1 o'clock. I wanted to be going an hour ago. I'm gonna do one last little check over everything, and I'm gonna throw some hydraulic oil in it quick. But yeah, I grabbed the monitor out of the combine, so that's ready to go, and make an afternoon out of making this bedding, and we can get back to making our corn harvest. Okay, with this John Deere 569 baler, we had to install a new wiring harness that attaches to the main harness here. Down in the rat's nest I have below the console here. It plugs into the back of the isobus pin that it tees in with the existing wiring harness. So when you plug in the baler into the isobus plug in the back of the 79, it is picked up by the ag leader monitor. Once you have the universal terminal activated, this is what you get. This is the Deere baler home screen, control screen. And you can see the last that we used it for was down at the valley. Dad actually was the one that ran it. He had 31 bales through it. We're gonna go through, what should we do? I don't think it really matters, but we're gonna switch to a new field. How about just a new job altogether? And I'm gonna zero out, yes I do. I'm going to field 1, bunch of unnecessary stuff, but I do want to know how many bales we're making. I'm not going to, I don't want to make a 64-inch bale. I'm going to make a 60-inch bale, but I'm going to be going mock chickens, so we're going to go by 59.5, and by the time I actually stop the tractor, it'll be approximately 60 inches. I'll get an alert when it is 5 inches from making a bale. Third bale shape indicator is on. PTO slip sensor is on. That's the sensitivity for my gauges when I'm running. So I like having all 3. You can actually shut that off, so you only have the outside 2, but I paid for the 3rd sensor. I'm going to use the 3rd sensor because that's I think something that only the 569 premium balers have. You can correct me if I'm wrong all you want. It really isn't going to change anything. Where's my bale wraps at? Right there. Instead of 3.5 turns, because we were making, yeah, the stuff down at the valley, I only had it set for 3.5 turns. I only have a small partial roll in there. I'm gonna go with 3.5. The reason I'm going to do that versus typically you're supposed to do 4 wraps for fodder, because fodder is really hard. It does not like being compressed, and 4 wraps is going to give you the ability to move it and store it. It'll shed the weather so much better, but also knowing that some of this stuff is going to be fed sooner than later, I will opt for less wraps, like 3. versus 4, especially if I know that I'm gonna spin right around and feed it right away. So I'm gonna head to the field. And here you have all 3 of us in the field. Dad's running rake, Ryan and I are running balers. The stuff is some really good quality stuff. It's a little tough, but the balers are eating it just fine. To be honest, it's baling up nicer than the first stuff we baled up at Rockville. Granted, that stuff was just a little bit tougher, had more greenness in it, even though it had been a couple days and it had been rained on. After we combined it from the time that we baled it, and oops, I'm glad that we were able to inline wrap everything that we made up at Rockville, which is part of the reason why my cows haven't gotten any fodder yet. I don't want my cows to start using up my inline wrapped stuff, because that stuff was wrapped with the intention of using it towards mid to late winter or even into next summer. So everything that we get made that is moved up to the farm for my cattle going forward here, it's not going to be wrapped. It's just going to be left out in the elements or stacked in that barn up there. And if we get a bunch of snow and ice on my bales that are sitting outside, it makes it that much easier to go through and grab some bales that were inline wrapped. Doing something that we don't typically like doing, but Brittany wasn't able to get 100% of everything cut down here on Sunday. She ran the whole day. She did an amazing job, but there's just a lot of ground here that you have to cover. And after Dad got done raking everything that she'd cut, we're kind of opting for we're here, we're running deer, let's go ahead and get it done. So originally we were going to try to make a bunch more up at Rockville, but seems how we've already got the 79 on the baler, the monitor out of the combine. It's more or less leaning towards, let's just go ahead and make everything that's here, and hopefully it'll be enough for our fodder needs for the year, because I will feed fodder clear into next fall. I mean, up until last year, as a matter of fact, I always liked having the fodder used up by spring because it was pretty well junk. And anymore now, if you can manage it properly, like wrapping it or having it stored inside where it's not weathered by the elements by the time spring comes around, I'll keep putting it in for my cattle as like a form of bedding and a roughage source, because I'll be back to giving them grass, hay, and all that throughout the summer. But alfalfa, again, I don't really feel like I was dealt a very good hand for this year, just because of everything from the hay supply and then also getting rained on all the hay that I had to make at the end of the summer. And the beans did all right. It's probably my worst bean crop in recent years, but not to the point where it's, a catastrophe. And it turned out better than what I was hoping. And as far as the corn goes, the field that I was in yesterday, I was figuring it was going to be 170. I was told it was going to be 170, 180, and it ran about 50 bushels higher than what I was being told to be prepared for. So that's good. The problem is I still have 100 acres of corn to go myself. And then it's getting everything cleaned up, tillage done, fall work done, and focusing on keeping the cattle happy throughout the winter. Well, hopefully this is the last baling we are going to be doing for this year. Plans have changed, and originally it was going to be make all the fodder at the home farm, and then haul what we need of that out to my brother's place because it's closer to my brother's place. And then, because I need about 50 or 60 more bales, my brother says he needs about 100, and then my dad, we were planning on just making enough down here for my dad. And plans have changed. There's a chance of rain tonight, hopefully not a very big chance, because if it's not too terrible, we're going to try to turn right back into harvesting. But the current goal is everything that Brittany had cut on Sunday was raked up, and while Dad was down here, we gave it a try on a bunch of the stalks that are still standing, just to try to get the rest of the material here made up. And right now that's pretty much just what we're aiming for, is get our corn fodder bales pretty well wrapped up for the year. At least they'll be made. Yeah, they're going to be in the field and air out a little bit. They are a little tough, but I'd rather bale them a little bit tough after being harvested and get them made before a rain on them, versus letting them wait like a week and get a couple rain showers on them, because rain doesn't do it any good. It starts to deteriorate, and personally the best bedding we've ever gotten is typically been out of any of the fodder that has been just combined and it was given a chance a few days to dry down and not have been rained on. I mean, the only downside here is we got to haul from here out to my brother's place, but depending on what we have for help to haul, I mean, we could run 3 trailers. I'm missing my backup camera right about now. We can run 3 trailers and move about 26 bales a trip, and more or less just make a day of it. And 2 loads or so up to the home farm for me, and stack whatever we need to here. I'd like to get the cows out in the other 2/3 of the farm. They're already out on the other third of it. But when we're dealing with continuous corn, one of the best ways to deal with volunteer corn is to let the cows out and clean up any of those ears that bounced out of the corn head as we were trying to harvest it. Not seeing very many at all, not even much if any corn on the ground, but it's free feed. Well, it's not free feed, we paid to grow it, but having the cows, giving them something else to chew on for a while so I don't have to feed them, because I've been feeding them hay since August, and right up until a week and a half ago, she stopped rolling. Right up until a week and a half ago, I was putting in 3 bales for these cows down here. And luckily we had, my parents had plenty of hay production this year that they were able to get a lot of hay made. So even though I was feeding bales for these guys for the last 2 months, we're still sitting on more hay than we were last year at this time. Or at least my parents are. Me, I'm just a big question mark. because my cows are gradually working on that hay from down at the valley. But if I can get a bunch of this fodder made, I'm not planning on wrapping any of this that I take up. And myself, I'm leaning on having a bunch of these bales treated with molasses and then just stack them in a line. And by doing that, even still putting them in the bale feeder, let the cows kind of chew through them first, and then take the bale feeder off and push the remains over into the bedding pack so they can at least lay on the rest of it. Because I don't have as much grass or alfalfa to feed my cattle like I've had in the past. That's just kind of how it goes. I mean, I have twice as many mouths to feed, if not slightly more, than I did in previous years going into this winter. And it just so happens this is the year where I kind of had a misstep trying to get any real amount of hay made. So it's ups and downs, but going into this winter with 700, 800 bales to work with would have been a lot nicer. My biggest concern at the moment is net wrap might start becoming an issue. I am working on the longest passes right now, but you guys saw those 2 used partial rolls. That littlest roll, I was able to get 10 bales off of it, which I guessed 5. The bigger roll, I ended up getting 20. So I ended up at 31 bales off those 2 partial rolls before I had to go through and put the brand new roll in. And this stuff is baling up really nice. Like I said, the stalks themselves are still kind of, you can grab them, you can feel the moisture in the stalks. To a certain degree, the leaves and all that is dry. It's just that the stalks themselves are a little tough yet. That's why if we get these bales made, we're not in any big rush to get them hauled in and stacked up. Let them air out a little bit so we don't haul them in and pack them all tight together and they heat on us. We've done that before, and that makes for another level of challenge trying to get them fed out or bedded down in the winter. But it all depends on the winter you have. I mean, a perfect winter for me is, being serious, is 20s. Not absolutely terrible cold, but just enough under freezing that you're not dealing with mud all winter when you're trying to feed cattle. It's not a major challenge trying to keep the waters thawed out, and 20-degree weather is a lot easier on the cattle than 0. But an argument could be made there. 0-degree weather doesn't bother the cattle as long as it stays consistent, or if they have a windbreak. Everyone wants to say you need a big pole shed or a big structure for your beef cattle. If you have one and you can afford to put one in, that's what I would do. But when it boils right down to the needs and requirements that they really do need, a windbreak, so they have something to stand behind when you do get a really strong blowing wind. Last December, when we were looking at that 20-30 degree below wind chills, I did a couple poor man's windbreaks. I stacked a bunch of corn fodder bales together where the cattle were eating down here at my place. So at least they had that windbreak to slow that wind down so they're not getting hit directly with all that cold air. and then, you know, potentially having sick calves, sick cows. And that's, I didn't get the calves weaned off until January last year, but again, when Calvin was born, I had a whole month there where I didn't do pretty well anything. And the goal is, the plan is, the intentions are, I'm planning on weaning off these calves of my parents December 1st. And we'll get the last bulls hauled out of here. I am very grateful that I at least was thinking ahead for all those late season calves that we had back in August, first week of September. The original plan for my parents' cattle was to pull all the bulls out November 1st and put them back in with my cattle for 60 days. Well, I just pulled out my one yearling. I don't even is that a yearling anymore. My one bull, the one that I actually would have preferred to have up there. And I left the other 3 down here. Yeah, 2 days later, after we hauled that first bull out, plus my heifers that I had in the house pasture, I had a cow that was in heat down here that if I would have pulled all the bulls out, that would have been a lost calf. I mean, just basically feeding her to keep her alive if she wasn't able to get bred back. So next year I'm tightening down the calving window, seeing they were in last year August 1st till January 1st. That's way too long. I'm trying to get our breeding calving dates tightened up so our calves are a lot more even going in through the auction ring. Because when you have a 4 or 5 month gap from the biggest and the smallest calf, then they just break your calves apart in smaller groups, and smaller groups do not sell that great or as well as they could. It's lost money, it's lost potential. So like for next year, the plan 1000% is going to be my cattle. I'll be putting the bulls in next summer, June 1st to August 1st, then pulling them out of my herd, dropping them down in with my dad's cattle, my parents' cattle, from August 1st to November 1st, pulling them out, back to Rockville, back in with my cattle for another 60 days, and then we'll have from January 1st till June 1st, I gotta figure out where I'm gonna go with them, because I don't like leaving the bulls in with the cows on the risk that you have an oddball or 5 open cows that get bred and off schedule, off sync of everybody else. So then I got a random 2 or 3 or 4 calves that I have to do something with, and they're not mixed in with on my rotation. Because this whole year of 2023 was 1000% me just trying to get my groove, everything working in a timely fashion, just trying to stick with calendar dates. And I knew this year was going to be kind of slow, kind of a headache. It is, it was, and I most certainly am hoping to see the benefits of it going into next spring, because I should have calves. When should I have calves? Is it the last week of March through the 23rd of May, going by the calving calendar that I'm using. Another goal I got for next year, I have a couple pastures that I really need to get like renovated. I need to get them up and running. And a lot of it is just getting the fences in working order. Because at least one of those pastures, I most certainly could drop the bulls in there and leave them in there for 6 months. Just put a bale in for them, and they have shelter, they have creek running water. I would see them literally every day. And that's kind of what we need. Another thing I need is we need some more bulls. I'm gonna have to, I'm figuring at least one more. We got one that's down here, maybe two if you include Rocky. I mean, I was pretty disappointed in him with my cows, but he came down here, and over half of these calves of my parents that are down here are red. So he definitely redeemed himself, which makes me panic. Either he was dysfunctional and wasn't working to his fullest extent when he was in with my cows last year, to where I only got 6 calves out of him, or it's my cows are having the issues. And I'd much rather it have been a bull issue than a cow issue, because having, you know, 12 to 15 cows that aren't getting bred back, I'm gonna know next spring, because anybody that does not produce a calf by this spring, or has not been checked pregnant when we preg check any of the cows that haven't calved next June, we'll be sending a load of cull cows to the sale barn, and we're going to start managing my cows a lot more. I'm going to be a lot pickier when it comes to managing who gets to stay and who gets to go. Because right now, I more or less just need everybody to produce calves, and picking heifers to keep back. Yeah, I still have some. I have red, black, and I have some Charolais. Those 2 Charolais cross mixes, whatever you want to call them. The only problem is that Charolais, that tan one where she's got the goofy horns coming out of her head. All my cows are fairly quiet. I mean, I just walked through them today, but she's one I can go up and grab her horns and shake her horns. She produced the best calf for this season. He's a steer. I banded him when he was born, and he's out of Rocky and her, and that calf is probably a good 100 pounds bigger than everybody else. Same circumstances as everybody else, and he just performed. So, little red steer with a little bit of white specks on him. It's easy for me to sit and talk about cattle, especially when what we're doing right now is 1,000% going to benefit the cattle, and slightly be a benefit to whoever's out here going to chisel plow this. Because without all this residue out here, this should work up really nice. And right now I'm banking on, the weather's looking like it's going to be pretty nice. We get harvest done, which this is the last real thing. If we can get all of our fodder made today, where it's not on the list of things that we need to get done anymore as far as getting decent fodder made. It's in the bale. It can rain on it all at once. It ain't gonna hurt it. It's gonna serve its purpose. But anything now, any decent running days can be focused on harvesting corn. Ryan did a pretty wicked job keeping us running yesterday. We got that field harvested in a day, which took us, granted it yielded better last year, but it still took us almost 2 full days to get it done last year. But the thing is, last year traffic was an issue. And not just your regular traffic, but you kept running into trains, having to stop and wait at the railroad crossing. So I'm hoping we can keep that kind of pace up. We really haven't done a whole lot of intensive corn harvesting. We've done some. I mean, we got this place off in the span of 3 days. And having a place to go with it readily is huge, so the combine isn't waiting. But if we weren't waiting on the corn to dry down, that was probably the last minute challenge surprise that we had this year, is having 26, 27, 25% moisture corn the last week in October. That was a challenge, because you can send it to the elevator, but you get docked so bad, you're almost better off just dumping it in the pile in the field and letting the wildlife have it. I exaggerate a little bit, but I'm not too far off from the truth. We're at 71 bales. I'm hoping to hit at least 100. I don't see Ryan. Of course, the problem is, this field that I'm in is split. This is a 40 acre field, plus the 25 acres that's up front. But I split the longest passes already, and I'm working on the back side. But the problem is there's a lot of fodder to be made on that side yet. And yeah, like a little dusty bat signal. I can see the dust flying up, so obviously Ryan is still on the up front, which I don't care. I'll bale until I'm done. What's gonna bug me is, net wrap becomes an issue. Because I brought down those 2 partials and a full one, and I really should get 120 bales a roll, in theory. I might have to cheat a little bit and drop the net wrap roll rate down a little bit. Alright, you guys are watching the rest of the story. Herschel sent us another camera setup, our GoPro, and I'm going to try to put that bad boy to use here. But as of right now, I would like to get done baling, clean this thing off, again, grease it, get all the corn, dirt, dust, debris out of it, and then unhook it for the season. The 79 is a great match for this baler, it really is. But it's better being on the 82, just in regards to the fact that the 79 is a much better raking tractor. And I kind of like that program of leaving the 82 hooked on to the 569 throughout the summer. So at least it's hooked up, it's ready to go. I do about 10 acres of custom baling, so whenever he has his stuff where he gets it on the ground and he wants it baled, I can just jump in a tractor and go. But we get done with harvest, we'll be hooking both chisels up, that rotary mower up. I got fields that need to purely just be ground up, and that's how they're going to be left until next spring. We got all of our tillage that needs to be done yet. But when you're running an 8R on that deer chisel, and this will probably end up on that case chisel, and we'll keep both chisels running and try to get everything done in about a week. That's the goal anyway. That's all I got for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later.